ITSTIF Leadership Production Series, Leadership Series. And we have been doing this during these tough times to basically share our learnings and our experience, and also bring experts to our show who have been there, done this before. So welcome. So here today, we have three special people in our panel. And the key guest today is Shonali, and we'll be welcoming her shortly. And she's got a great career in PR marketing, and she has got great economics experience, and she has done TED Talks. She's also an HBAP graduate to be. Okay, she's very excited on that. And then we have Yolande on the panel as well. She's an entrepreneur. She's I can say coach and mentor. And we have Prabhu, our friend, who has been with us in the last couple of leadership series. And she is a great marketing person. He's also a coach and mentor. And he also helps a couple of younger budding entrepreneurs and guide them. So I'm going to have more of this introduction by having them introduce themselves. Something different I'm trying. And this is Srinivasa, as you all know, program management leader, speaker, and host for the show, as well as producer of ITSTIF. So without much ado, I welcome you all to our ITSTIF Leadership Series. And let's do, with a great drum roll, we'll get everybody to our show. Thank you so much. So first, let's just welcome Shonali. And Shonali, thanks for your time. It's super dynamic and agile, which within a short notice, I just mentioned yesterday that we are doing this show. It was conceived by our friend Prabhu and say, let's do about this topic on personal branding. So I was just thinking about it. Oh, there's something called personal branding. Okay, let me just poll into what exactly is personal branding. Okay, so before we get into it, so Shonali, why don't you just educate us about your impressive career? I just wanted from your experience and from coming from you. Can you please tell us?
Shri, thank you so much. It's so kind of you to have me, and it's a really fun and honor to be here. And I love that I'm seeing Yolande and I'm meeting Prabhu as well for the first time. So, in a nutshell, as your audience is probably wondering, where the accent is from, but like you, I'm originally from India, and I moved to the States about 20 years ago. My background is quite varied because I'm very left brain and right brain. I ended economics at the undergrad level, and then I became a professional actress, having studied theater. And then I made my career in PR and marketing. And then as I was pivoting my career, I really wanted to learn more about analytics, because that's always been a passion of mine, and how that could help a business move forward, particularly with purpose-driven organizations. So that is what led me to HBAP. I also teach. I've been adjunct faculty at Johns Hopkins for many years now. I teach multiple courses for the Masters in Communication program. And I also teach on my own. I've launched my own online programs in an area of PR that I developed called social PR, which really focuses on leveraging social technologies to help build communities, and then really put that community at the heart of your storytelling and your branding to move your message forward. So that's, in a nutshell, a big nutshell, what I do.
And in fact, it's very impressive that you mentioned that you are one of the first one with being recognized by PR Week's top 40 under 40 list of US-based PR pros. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. That is true. I was the first Indian American woman to be named to PR Week's first ever 40 under 40 list, actually.
That's good. And also congratulations on your upcoming HBAP immersion, the first immersion that you're all excited about.
I am very excited about it. I was really nervous about it, but it's been really fun reading all the cases, which of course are, classic HBS style. And there was a little bit of a gap between the last course finishing and then immersion, and before we go into the next course. And it's just been so nice to see my cohorts and, other people that I don't normally see. And I feel like, oh, yay, I'm seeing all of my friends again.
Exactly. That's pretty good, impressive, and thank you. And in fact, we have a lot of things in common, at least for, I would say, most of us now, because Prabhu is already convinced to join HBAP. So we kind of brainwashed him right now. He's the only man, odd man out in that. And yeah, right. Anyway, so let's just go to Prabhu. Welcome to yet another leadership series, and thanks once again for your time today. Can you please give us a quick rundown for our listeners?
Yeah, thanks, Sri, and nice to meet you, Shonali and Yolande. It's a great evening we are going to have. A brief about myself. I have been in the US for last 22 years, primarily helping businesses implement their ERP projects, ERP and BI projects. I help them staff those projects, and last 2 years I've helping companies implement open source ERP and also get digital, like go digital. So primarily, I'm in the talent acquisition and project implementation space, and I use social media quite a lot for my work-related area, which I found it to be very beneficial. And looking forward to hearing from all of you on your perspectives on personal branding. Thank you.
Welcome, Prabhu. And also, he's a great social activist and supports a couple of non-profit organizations. And we share a lot of things in common. So I'll come to me later. Yolande, welcome to our program. And thanks again for accepting this invite and being available. And you bring a totally different perspective. So please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Sri. I'm really honored to be that you asked me to join you. As you said, mine's more of an experience in this area than not, formal knowledge. But to give you a little bit of background of myself, I have been in the States for 28 years. I came to the States to study business administration. I had been working in the technology area initially after my math and mathematics undergraduate training, and then I moved into finance and the banking sector. And I decided I wanted to get a business administration degree. So I came to the United States and ended up loving it. After I got my practical training period, my company hosted me to stay on. Worked with them for 7 years, and then in the meantime, I got married and had kids, and my husband and I started our own business, which we have now owned for 20 years. So we've been entrepreneurs in the energy sector. And most of our clients are in the utilities or natural gas storage area.
Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. And in fact, another thing that is common is we all have completed 20 years in the United States. Me too. So, and the other thing common is, again, I was very proud for our company build the ERP solution from scratch. People have buy to implement. We built it, and I was the program manager to build that ERP solution within, I would say, 5 months. So that's just a great. We worked under a great leadership. So and
Yes.
still working, but yeah, it was awesome. Anyway, basically, something I'm going to let people know about, something which I have not said before. I'm a humorist, theater artist as well, and done a lot of plays back home. Also in the All India Radio, I would say rather, and that gave me an experience back here. For about 11 years, I was doing Stanford University College Radio, doing talk shows, 500 plus talk shows. One of the proud moment was I was broadcasting live on entrepreneurship program, which was presided over by none else than President Obama. So His Excellency. So it was a live broadcasting I did for, and it was, and also all the stalwart, Sundar Pichai, Mr. And then Mr. Zuckerberg, and also the senators, and everybody was there. It was a very proud moment, and 1,000 people attended. And then so it was a very nice. So I was part of the White House press pool. So it's still today. It was about a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, I guess. Yeah. So other thing is PMP and governance in enterprise IT and information systems audit. Been doing a lot of project management work, and also speaking assignments. I had a talk last week on Anthony, our friend again, HBAP. So he invited me to talk about agility in project management, and similar to the topic that we had with the professor on the last week, Yale, right? So the objective of this program is Stiff is just a community service, more like a just we learn, we share, we care. That's the kind of thing. So without much ado, so what are we going to talk about today, dear listeners? And thanks for joining and giving your valuable time to us. And welcome you all once again. I see a couple of comments already. So today's topic, as you all know, is about the personal branding. So the question here is, why do we need to care about personal branding? And really, this is me. I'm an individual. I have my own, a style of functioning. If you wanted to engage with me, you better know me, and then that's how you engage with me. That's it. So it's your problem if you don't like my style of functioning. So that's kind of an attitude is there. But at the same time, what people say, no, that's not true. Because if you look at being proud of a HBAPer myself, graduated in March, and so the thing is, we did a case study also. Companies, they decide whether to promote an individual or not, because he's talented, but his attitude, culture, behavior, and other things, it doesn't help the organization to meet their goals and objectives. So it's super important to know it's not that are you sincere, diligent, disciplined, and you're dependable and whatnot, but what others think about you. So that matters. That's kind of what I was super interested in this topic when Prabhu mentioned this to me. It's again all happened within 24 hours, to be honest with you. And so I would like to open this to get your all thoughts first, your high-level thoughts, and then we'll go deep into it. I know we have some time constraints for Shonali as well, so because she's in the East Coast, so thank you so much. So let's invite Shonali to share about why do we need to care, what is personal branding means in its entirety, and how does it helps one's career. So where do we go for help? So let's just get our thoughts. Thank you.
Oh, now we could probably talk all night and maybe then some on this subject, because it is quite fascinating. And I think what's also really fascinating is just how the entire field of, personal branding has actually become a thing. Because I remember back in the day when a lot of my marketing and branding colleagues, there was very much a school of thought that said, there's no such thing as a personal brand, because, how would you have your personal brand get acquired? But the fact is that when we present ourselves in any environment, in any circumstance, there's what we think of ourselves, and there's how we think we are coming across. And then there's what the person on the other side of this is actually thinking. And, I think, I can't remember who it was who said that a brand is not what you think of yourself, it's what other people think of your product or service. And it's a similar philosophy, I think, for a personal brand, that you do present with a certain set of qualities, you make people feel a certain way, you spark certain emotions and certain thought processes in others, and all of those make up what your personal brand is, which then comes to the question, Shri, that you were referring to, is that how do you get there? What do you do with that? So I could go on talking, but I kind of feel like I should give somebody else a chance to pick up.
It's a good summary, though. Thank you. And Prabhu, would you mind sharing your thoughts to kick us off on this?
Yeah, once you are online, where you write a blog or whether speeches relate line somewhere, and you have an audience of, it can be a single person or multiple followers, or you have a LinkedIn profile or an Instagram post, which a lot of people are following, then you're already online and you have already created a brand for yourself. So, as Shonali mentioned, what other people think about you is what all your brand is about. So, what are you trying to convey to them? How are you going to make a difference in their career or their business or their way of doing certain things or their nonprofit. So when you're trying to establish these things, then the experts suggest that instead of trying to copy somebody's what do you say, style, establish your own style and be yourself, and that becomes eventually your brand and your way of approach, and that's what people will relate to easily, and that will stay with you forever. Yeah, that's my take.
Okay. Thank you. That's very good. I mean, so be your own individual, in other words, right? You don't need to copy somebody's style, but you might be influenced by somebody, but you might, okay. Yes, Yolande, could you share your thoughts, please?
Well, so that's actually it's been very enlightening listening to Shonali and Prabhu, and I totally agree with them. Brand is not just about what you see about yourself, but about what the other person sees. And an important part is getting to know what that gap is so that you can try to lessen it if there's a reason, if there's a necessity to. So the question that I had was, how do you get around doing this? If I ask my own family members, what do you perceive in me? They're all very supportive, and that's great and all that. But I needed to know honest feedback about any negatives that people perceive in me, because if I don't see that, then I don't know that there's something I need to change. So it happened early in February before Houston shut down with the pandemic. I happened to be at a conference at Rice Business School, and to give credit where it's due, I wanted to mention Dr. Janet Moore, a professor at Rice, that taught us this little exercise that she said, get about 15 to 30 people, friends and colleagues, not your close family members, to give you feedback. Ask them for 5 to 10 words of positive and negative feedback about yourself. But the key in doing this is to get this feedback confidentially. They should not feel like you know who's saying what about you, because that honesty may not come through. That if they do, they may not be as honest in their feedback. So I asked Ashley Wilson, one of our HBAP members, if she would help me in gathering the feedback from people that I reached out to, and she was very supportive, very helpful in this. She took the email responses that people sent in and extracted the phrases and words of positive feedback. Very few sent anything negative, to the point where I said, okay, did people not understand that this was actually supposed to be also about negative feedback, so that I can do something about improving any view of myself? Did they maybe think that I was still involved in, I could still tell that who had sent what. Well, so once you get this feedback, what you're supposed to do is, let's say that somebody says you're ethical, and another person says you're honest, and a third person says you're trustworthy. These can all be synonyms of the same thing. So you group them in little buckets, and then you see which ones are coming out as really strong positive buckets and really strong negative buckets, and that's your personal brand. And then the negative ones might be something you might not agree with it, but that's okay. That's how people are viewing you, and then you need to start thinking about, what can I do to address that view, to change how people are seeing me. Now, Ashley took it a step further. She didn't just give me this information. She got a little tableau visual for me with the words, and the strength, the size of the words depended on how often they appeared. So if somebody said ethical, 5 different people said ethical, that's really strong in my little tableau visual. And the other thing she did is, she did not bucket words together. She left the granularity in, so I could see in this picture not just the strength of how many times a particular word came up, but also how many people said honest, how many said ethical, how many said trustworthy, different sizes, that all of those words were used to describe me. And so I loved it so much. It's now my desktop background. And every time I log on, I see it. It's a reminder of what my friends and colleagues think about me. So it's a little exercise that I think is totally worth it.
Good. I have some questions for you, but I'll come to it. I'll reserve that right now. So my thinking is always one us to, even in our own language, they say you want us to understand who you are first place, right? When you're born as somebody, and then you pick up your skills and you pick up your friendship, and you're being taught a lot of things, right? And then you are the one who do not know everything. You pick up as you grow. So this is philosophical sounds, but then people perceive you as being something. Even one of our boss used to say, people think that I know everything. No, I don't know anything. Tell me what is expected of me, and you tell me. It's kind of open feedback. So to me, what is the character that stands out? The person is like honest, he's dependable, right? And he's messy, he is very organized, you know what I mean, trustworthy, honorable, those kind of things. Or in other words, as a person who's got the energy, there are people around this person, you know what, I feel like I'm so happy. I feel like my world is changing, you know what I mean. The positive energy is like, the smile is an infectious smile, right? And also fearless, dynamic, motivated, so that means you feel like, oh my god, I need to associate with such kind of person. So then the other thing is the professional stuff, like some of them are like is very strategic, or somebody who's very tactical, everything you say, just go to the detail. But there are some jobs where you need to be tactical rather than strategic, right? So what is that? He's very competent, and then if you give a problem, even if he doesn't know the answer, he's go getter. Like I've seen feedback from, it was very nice to get feedback from a couple of my managers to see what is this guy, they say something, and I said, oh, okay, thank you, is it really true? So first thing is it somebody trying to please you by saying something, or is it really true? So to Yolanda's point, I want to say the majority, right? You know what I mean? 6 people out of the 10 says that means maybe that's what they perceive me. And the question here, I wanted to stop here, and then I wanted to open it up, Shonali, for your comments too, because you've been there in consulting and as a growth strategist, right? So pretty much, can you tell us, like, so we do care, we do need to care. What do we do, right? Could you touch on that, please? Yeah.
You absolutely. So yeah, we do need to care, because I think, ultimately no one's an island. We are all living and working in society. We need to figure out how to live and work as in as much in harmony as possible. And I'm not going to go, get all kumbaya on everybody right now, but that's the truth. We want to live in harmonious environments. We want a good work culture, and so on. And as Yolande pointed out, there's a kind of a gap of who you think you are and what other people think you are, and then how do you bridge that? And I think the exercise that she and Ashley went through is so useful. And, for folk who maybe don't have access to Tableau, you can just do that, gather that data, and then put it into any kind of word cloud generator, and you'll get basically the same kinds of results. But I think what's really important, especially in the workplace, in a professional setting, is to think about, okay, here's the position I want. This is where I want to go with my career. Here are the strengths and the qualities that they're looking for. What do I already have? What is not reflected so much? Maybe that I think I do have or possess, but maybe that is not coming through as strongly. And then how do I reconfigure how I present to properly showcase that? And that's really where, things like focusing on your LinkedIn profile and your resume, and really getting down to the nitty-gritty of your achievements and your experience, and going in and saying, here is what I did. Here's how I helped my client or my organization achieve XYZ. And I think it's really important to phrase your work and your accomplishments in in terms of outcomes? What actually happened? Because you put a lot of effort into things, but are you optimizing? Are you being as efficient as possible? Are you helping those around you be as efficient and productive as possible? Are you helping move your business move towards its goals and KPIs? Those are the things that potential employers, that colleagues, that managers are looking for to help you advance through your path. So if you find that where you want to be is not accurately reflected in where you are right now, but you actually have those competencies, then you need to engage in exercises like the one Yolande talked about to actually better showcase yourself. If you don't have that experience, then honestly, the only answer that I have is you have to go get it or training.
So I think the one point which jumps out is you need to focus on your key strengths and try to see if there are ways to expose it, bring it up in opportunities to let people know, oh, I didn't even know about that this person has got this much of talent. And it's not like blowing your own trumpet, but it's more like saying that maybe you guys do not know, which is allow me to speak, allow me to share this with you. Okay. Since we have a question for you, if you don't mind, Shonali, because of the time, I would like to share that question from Madhavan. Is from one of the Facebook fan of It's Diff, can I say, I would like to claim, but anyway. So he's saying, do you think the personal branding in a small enterprise can reach geographically across when you do not have the capacity to increase volumes in your products? It's more like on the product side is asking that.
So Madhavan, just so I understand correctly, and Shri, perhaps you could help interpret, are you asking, does a personal brand help impact product?
You can read it here, right, on the bottom of the screen as well.
Yeah, but then I have to put my glasses on and look.
Oh, no, it's okay. I don't want to put you on spot. Okay, yeah. So please.
So
please
in terms
continue.
of, would it help with the sales or marketing of that product? Is that where the question's going?
I couldn't see. Madhavan, could you please clarify your thought? Yeah.
Since we are being all transparent and so on.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I think so, Madhavan. That would be great if you could clarify a little bit. But one thing I will say, personal branding in any size enterprise, and Prabhu, I'm sure you have an opinion on this as well. It does have an impact, because where are we publishing these days? We're publishing online. Okay, so Madhavan is talking about marketing. Okay.
Marketing, yes. Yeah.
So absolutely, yes. And in fact, that's why I think there's this surge of influencers and influence marketing, which, let's face it, we've always had influencers in marketing, but there used to be different categories of influencers. You had board members, you had media and this and that, but now you've got like grassroots influencers. Anybody can be an influencer. I've done a lot of work in the influence marketing space, and influence always comes down to context, because everyone is influential. It just depends on the context. So particularly if you are a smaller organization and say you don't have a lot of budget or muscle to put towards traditional marketing, your emphasis on starting to publish, to showcase your thought leadership, and there are tons of platforms, even if you don't have your own blog or you can't incorporate that easily into your own online presence. LinkedIn is a massive publishing platform, and that has a lot of search engine optimization value as well. But really seeding your online footprint with your thought leadership is how you build that presence, and it's how you build your personal brand, which then does have an impact on the marketing of your business, your product, your service. Because when people are doing searches for those words, if you've created and published the right kinds of content, which could be written, could be multimedia, could be any kinds of things, that all starts to play in. Just today, I had a new business call with an entity I had no clue about, but they reached out to me through my website to see if I was interested in submitting a proposal for a pretty significant size project. And I was like, how did you guys even find me? And I do ask that question on my site. But the breadcrumb trail was essentially, they found me through a specific type of services marketplace that a colleague and friend of mine had set up. He found out about me through the PR network, which is, I've been involved in for a while, obviously, but a large part of that has been publishing and showcasing my learnings and failures as well in things like social media and social technology. And that kind of all led them to say, okay, we might want to see what she thinks about this, which led them to ask the question.
Yeah. No, actually, it's good because Sean commented, say, can we focus on the personal branding for freshers, mid-career and senior, etc., than the product, which, totally, Sean, thank you for asking that, because there is a product branding. It's a separate session. It's coming up later, not in this session. But one thing which I wanted to let people know is, but from what Shonali mentioned is, you have some talents, skill sets and other things. So you use the social networking to just let people know what you have, or what you as a skill set and experience and expertise, so people can, you are changing the opinion of people about or making an impression, you know what I mean? So I think that's how I take it, right?
Absolutely, Shri. But I think there's a second part to that that's really important, and I think a lot of people don't get that, especially when they're starting out, because there's the outbound communication. That's what you're publishing, what you're showcasing. Right. But it is equally, if not more important, to also engage, to participate in communities, to not just always be talking, but to be listening as well. So this entire area of social PR, I know I'm doing the air quotes, that I developed some years ago really came out of my experience of seeing that traditional PR was very one way. It was a lot of kind of shouting through a megaphone, whereas people don't want to be shouted at. I mean, just look at us. We're having a conversation. We're not insisting that I am right and you are wrong. There's nuances in conversation. At a brand level, I'm not talking about personal brand right now, that becomes even more important. And so then for your personal brand, as you are developing that, it is important for you to also really listen to what people are saying, what they are asking, because that helps you generate more content. It's important to participate in community initiatives like this one. You've built a community by providing a service, by being of value and of service to your audience. And so they're coming back to you, they're giving back to you. And so you, Shri, are a great example of how you are building your personal brand by actually engaging, showcasing your thought leadership, but also being of service. And that part, that being of service, to me, that is the bottom line. That is like the most important thing.
And thank you for the compliments. I take it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a thank you for you all being part of that. I appreciate it. So we'll go to Prabhu on this. Prabhu, your thoughts on this, please.
So whenever you want to establish your brand, there are different ways to convey what you want to share and what is your take on that. So I have observed a lot of personalities, both here and like back from India where I grew up. Some of them are industry leaders. Some of them are movie personalities. Some of them are like a volunteer organization personalities. So their way of engaging audience is everybody takes a certain approach. Somebody would start the conversation with a small story, and maybe they will relate philosophy, then they will come to the main subject, and they will then strike what they want to tell. So always you'll remember, whenever you remember that story, you'll remember what they mentioned and what they relate to. So the personification happens there. Somebody who is an industrial leader or somebody who is a businessman, then they also they try to position what they have achieved versus what they are giving back to the society in terms of corporate social responsibility. For example, Mr. Ratan Tata. So much of donations and so much of corporate giving he has instilled in people. So then I grew up in some of social NGOs like Dr. R.V. Ramani from Coimbatore, who established an eye hospital way back in the 80s. So whenever he talks about, he instilled confidence in terms of giving statistics on how a donor's money is being spent. So these are the type of people I grew up, and back here I have observed a lot of industry stalwarts like Elon Musk, your chairman ministry from Tesla, and also Richard Branson. These are the people you personify the brand themselves more than the product. So what story you got to tell, how you got to tell, is a decision you need to make, and that will stay in people's mind. And as Shonali put it, yeah, it's not a one-way talk. People have to assimilate your thing, and they have to learn. That is how that's where you are going to make difference in their business or their lives, and it needs to stay on. And you need to listen. So basically, that happens with constant feedback and constant listening to what is their thought processes also. Especially in my field, I have to be empathetic and listening to what career changes people want to make, what kind of business problems they are going through when they implemented a past ERP with some other solution provider, what they want to achieve, what are all the end results they want to achieve. So those are the thought process I have to have very clear in mind, understand what the people are telling, and that relates to what as a personality, what I want to convey. I'm a person who always look at helping a lot of non-profit organizations, which I've done for myself. So this kind of relates to what the type of personality I'm in, and I try to bring that kind of empathy in my work also. So that is the my take on what story you want to convey and how you want to convey, so that people stay on with that forever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's one point that I would like to mention here. Thank you for that storytelling, that is good. So you're slowly extending from personal to the professional network and capacity of extending your own cultural upbringing and your mentor, the leader that you followed, and that shows in your character. You know what I mean? Those kind of things, and then it shows up in your serving the community ultimately. All right, but more so, the question that we all need to think about is, it matters. We all agree vehemently that we say that, hey, it's really matters, and you need to constantly seek opinion and feedback from your fellow peers, right? Whether it is subordinates or junior, because if you see companies, they do the 360-degree review, right? Feedback review, because they wanted to know what the person, your reportee, is thinking about you, where in terms of like getting direction, getting advice, right, and counseling, or in his career growth and orientation, right, and also caring for the person. See, that's what as a leader, once it's not just changing the perception, it is like being the person who is helping somebody's career growth, so that way he's a successful leader. You know what I mean? And also he makes great friendships. He helps build a network. Be available. Like, are you like cheerleader type of a leader? Are you like a person, this is what I've done, I want you to do this way? Another type. The other thing is, I don't think I have the expertise. So what I will do, I'll point to someone who can help you. See, I'm helping. This is like a charity, I'm just trying to help some. The other one is like, hey, I'm watching from behind. Okay, if you got stuck, I'll tell you. So this is what in one of the Harvard Business Review that I just read, that there are different types of skill sets that one has to have. And in fact, I ought to thank this context Jennifer Bangora. Right? She helped on LinkedIn, especially, and to see you have to say a few things, clear and concise, that talks about your skill sets. Be clear and concise, and also again, we learned from HBAP again, thanks to the various networking, the social networking on, like, are you helping people? Are you just getting help from people? Do you consult somebody on career? Do you on coaching guidance and things like that? So that's where it is super important I wanted to emphasize on getting feedback, helping people, getting help from people. And also that way you build your network. Ultimately, the branding things is, one has to go up in the career. You need to focus on some of these things about constantly. It's like constantly reaching out to the customer and knowing your feedback. It's like that. So that's what it comes to my mind. Yolande, would you chime in from your side, please?
Yeah, so I think that it's very important to continue getting feedback, just from the standpoint of personal growth. There should be to me anyway, there should be that constant desire to grow. So, for example, I would like to do this exercise that I did this year. I would like to do it again, and I'm not sure what my frequency will be right now. Maybe I'll try it in a year. I want to give myself some time to build on. Like I said, there were not too many negatives that I had to work on, but I'd like to give myself time to work on them and then try it again. We actually ended up running this experiment twice this year, just because the first time I had sent out the request right days before Houston shut down, and people were adjusting their lives, and so we got when my time frame for the initial deadline came up, I ended up not getting too many responses, and Ashley took it upon herself to make another request. So yes, I think that second request already helped us see some new responses, and I think that's constantly there should be that desire to change and grow and learn from it.
Okay. Thank you. So, Shonali, one last thing, just to sorry to keep you longer more than we planned. Could you tell us? So, it's okay to reach out for help, and so who do we reach out for help? Could you just touch on that, and then we can conclude as far as you're concerned, if you don't mind. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you so much. Yeah, I do think it's really important to ask. However, I think it's important also to not rely solely on external feedback, because, I think you've got to have a really strong self of who you are and your qualities and what you truly believe about yourself and the value that you bring to the table. So when you are asking people for feedback, I think it's wise to have a mix. Probably not family, unless you have family members who can be very objective. Maybe a mix of colleagues and people at different levels of their career. I think that's very helpful. So that kind of mimics the 360 approach that a lot of companies take to reviews and feedback. And I think there are two other things that are very important. One is to be very specific with what you are asking for. I want to know how I come across with regards to this. And this is something when a lot of people come to me asking to, pick my brain or asking for advice, I try to help as much as I can. I say, what specifically can I help you with?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, how do you think I should approach marketing? I don't know. There's like 500 million books on the subject. How on earth could you expect me to answer that? That's what I think. I don't say that because I try not to be rude. But so I think the more specific you are when you're asking a question, you're actually doing that person a service because you're helping them help you. And the second thing, I think you and Yolande touched on it earlier, is that it must be asked and given in the context of being helpful. So I personally am not a huge fan of asking for negative feedback. I had a very, very good friend, also somebody I got to know professionally, and then we've become very close since, ask me not too long ago if I would tell her 3 things I didn't like about her. And I said, no, I will not. And she said, why? And this is on a friendship level, not on a professional level. I said, well, you're my friend. You wouldn't be my friend if there were things I didn't like about you. And if there are any quirks that you have in your personality, they're unimportant because the good way overrides anything that perhaps is not positive. So she got it. But had that question been phrased to me on the professional level, I would still have said, well, I don't know that I have anything specifically negative to say about you, but depending on what you want to achieve and where you want to go, perhaps these are some growth areas. And I think so it's really important, I think, to not just request the feedback, but also to provide it in a really constructive way, because we're all human beings. We can get hurt, and we don't want to inadvertently hurt each other. I truly believe that what what goes around comes around, and you don't want to be mean to someone and have that come back and bite you at any point in time. So that's how I would approach it.
That's good. So that's one of the personality trait as well, right? In terms of helping and also coaching, guiding, and being a leader. One of the great traits about when somebody is seeking for help, you ought to help. Or even my friend Rajesh Shetty mentioned that, are you in a position to help? If not, point to somebody else who can help. At least that's a little bit of help you do, right?
Absolutely.
And Shonali, thank you so much. I know it's a very brief time that we had with you, but it was very insightful. Definitely we'll get you some other time, and just would like to tap into your experience. And thank you so much. I know it's very late for you. Much appreciated. We will catch up at some other time. Okay?
Thank you. It was
Thank you
great
very
to
much.
see you,
Thank you.
Yolande,
And stay
Prabhu.
safe, and yeah, sure.
Thanks
Thank
very much.
Bye.
Thanks,
Have a good
Shonali.
show.
Thank
Bye.
you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, dear listeners, that was Shonali, and she's very impressive profile. And I'm gonna put that link of her profile in the YouTube recording, so that you can all watch and look at a TED talk as well. It's very impressive. And so we are talking about personal branding. Why should you really care? What do you do when you wanted to change the perception of people on you, about what they perceive you? And so what do you do? What are the mechanisms and approach that we can do? And you must have heard Yolande sharing her experience at HBAP on what she went through. She's going to touch more on that in terms of what happened after that. So that's the story pending. Okay. And then Prabhu is talking on his side. So if you wanted to listen to our other podcast series, I would like to just share this here. These are all also, it's not a video, it's an audio podcasting. So what I would recommend strongly is you can just click on this link, and this you can subscribe to it. It's a Apple podcasting. So you can see all our previous leadership shows that we have done on remote networking, and how to be a leader, and on successful projects related topics as well, and remote working. And also with Jennifer, we also did a special show on that, in terms of how to cope up with career during this. So you'll find it, and do subscribe to this. And also, please, while you are watching on YouTube, if you like our show, do subscribe as well on YouTube, so you can pick up either a YouTube video or the audio. We wanted to make sure these rich content by such great people who are giving their time to our community. I wanted the maximum benefit for those who are aspiring leaders, and wanted to up in their career, so that they can go and help mentor, coach somebody. All right, good. So let's see the other thing. Question, Prabhu, I wanted to ask this question about right, being on the being honest, and also in giving opinion, and also not being negative. What are your thoughts on that? Because some people hesitate when they wanted to give a feedback. They don't want to spoil relationships, so they just have the tendency of just not saying the right thing, and then say, what
Yeah, thanks, Sri. I had earlier listened to one of your conversation with Mr. Rajesh Shetty. So if you remember, he took an example of if somebody comes and asks him about whether he could be a good guide on cooking. He said, "I'm a bad cook, so I want to be honest that and be upfront, but at the same time, I don't want to be negative." He said, "I always ask the other person, shall I take the privilege of introducing to somebody who is an expert cook? Would you mind taking the advice instead of me from that person?" So I really enjoyed that piece of his speech, and that's the way we have to be plain and simple, what we do and what we cannot do, and you have to, that kind of navigates us to the topic on what, when you are establishing your brand, what is the niche you want to be in, what is the focus area you want to position, what is the that one best thing you will be able to help people in. And I've observed a lot of business leaders and other people who have that micro focus, which is very sharp, and they position it very clearly. And one more thing we need to that is also called as establishing what is your personal mission statement. And once you establish that mission statement, you have to be very consistent on positioning that mission statement across the platforms where you are visible, whether it is LinkedIn, whether it is Facebook, or whether it is Twitter or Instagram, any of the platforms. Like I prefer mostly LinkedIn and like Facebook for most of my talent acquisition related aspects. But I've seen a lot of people who are in the food industry business, they use Instagram quite heavily. But it is very interesting to note, like off late, Twitter, Telegram, WhatsApp, all those things are being extensively used in my industry, in talent acquisition and consulting, to convey your case studies or share your experiences or your clients' experiences with similar network of people. So once you have identified the niche, keep reinforcing that across platform, reinforce or create messages or content which you can reuse. This you don't want to reinvent again and again the content for different in a different way for different platform. So you have to create the same, use the same content in multiple platforms. So create in such a way this message is carried across, and your mission statement and your focus is aware to most people who want to approach you, and you have to be approachable and be simple when they contact you. And that is the most of the successful people, some of the very big food entrepreneurs and other NGO social entrepreneurs I have met. That is how they make friends, and that's how they build the networks. So
Okay.
that is my take. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a couple of comments on this. I'm glad you mentioned about Rajesh Shetty, our mentor and friend here. So the point he said, I am a bad cook. However, I will point you to a person who is a good cook. And then he also did something. You know what he said? By the way, if you really wanted to seek my advice on how to write a book and things like that, come to me. You see that?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
nice way to pitch in, and you are just promoting and utilizing the opportunity and say, by the way, I'm good at this.
Yes.
See, that means it's not a question of changing perception. It is just like marketing and letting people know. So that's a talent, right? And then second, the other thing which got my attention is the consistency and standardization in your messaging needs to be very good across. That means your behavior, if you look at it in a personal term, your behavior is you are caring across the board.
Yeah.
You are organized across the board. You are dependent. At the end of the day, people think when I give it to Shri, when I give it to Prabhu or Yolande, they will get the job done. They are very detail oriented, so they will get it. And then they are superfluous. You know what? When you just give it to them, they just only look at the top things and then they just go. They don't go to the knee. Like, so there's a two things, right? Task taker. You know what I mean? Whereas the person who just comes, be creative, innovative, to come and do something. So what kind of perception that you are leaving about yourself with your other person? So as Madhavan asked in the question earlier, so you got to be careful. I mean, it's not like you be yourself, but make sure that yourself and your character is exactly perceived as it is. If not, because if you are not considered as a person who is a value add to the project or to the organization or a team, then you cannot grow in your career.
Yeah.
Whatever you might do. So I think everybody has got to learn. I'm learning even today. So the question here is, last before I get to Yolande, one point I wanted to say, it's not the question like I think I liked what Shonali mentioned. It's not like a person having a loudspeaker and then saying one way. It's an engagement. It's an engagement. Your customer will come back to you for referral business or more business. Your product can go viral on a product context. Similarly, as an individual, your behavior is you're diligent, disciplined, attention to details, very organized, motivated, communicative, friendly, get the job done, very helpful, and your positive energy, you're an influencer, you're a great coordinator, all this thing, if you develop those, what do you want others to pursue you, perceive you, right? So to pursue you or to be pursued, right? You know what I mean? The word stuff ultimately will get you up in your career. You will be part of every project that they want a piece of you. That's what comes to my mind. So everybody has to sit and think, oh my, I should write this down. Am I a driver or am I a task taker? Am I
One more point I wanted to share. When you are conveying your message, you also can be micro focused on what is the result that is going to be. Everybody is wanting to know, if I do this, I'm enhancing my personal brand. What is the result? What is going to be the outcome? Everything is outcome based. What is the result quantification?
deliverable?
I think Yolande would have experienced this as an entrepreneur herself with her husband in her consulting business in the energy field. So this is, and always it's good to get quantification and success in writing, like documentation or
Testimonial, right?
endorsement. Yeah, the endorsements and testimonials, and make it visible so that your referrals become much more easier, and more people will approach. Okay. Yeah, so thanks for giving me the opportunity again.
No, it's good. Yeah, Yolande, yeah, please share your comments, Yolande. We are all ears to you now.
No, Shonali and Prabhu said it all, right? The one comment I want to make there, Sri, is that I don't want to leave the impression that I went just to HBAP for my feedback. In fact, because I've only been at HBAP for such a short time, just barely a year when I started this exercise, there were very few people that I felt comfortable asking at HBAP who would know me. And most of the people that I asked were people that I've worked with in the past or done, I do a lot of volunteer work. It's just various parts of my life. And so I've asked them for feedback. But there was one little comment that one person that I asked that I'd never ever met in person or even over Zoom, like we've met during class or webinars. And I remember the person asked me, what's the purpose of your asking me for feedback? Because even though there was a little setup behind, I kind of introduced it as I went to this seminar and I learned that this is something I can do to try to see how people perceive me in my work relationships. And I said our dealings in this world today, especially now post-pandemic, has been so much on the digital end of things and on the phone or so how I come across in a phone conversation is just as important as how I come across on my LinkedIn profile or in the things I say out in public or the work that I do with my coworkers. So the person gave me actually some very good, I think. It was, I think they understood where I was coming from, and I think they're one of the ones that responded. But this has been very enlightening, and when I listened to the workshop in February, I saw the point of asking for the negative side of things. But I totally agree with Shonali that you don't need to change yourself just because somebody views you negatively.
Right.
If you're coming across wrong, it may still not be the you, that did happen with me. There's a couple of pieces of negative feedback that I got that really did not strike me as me, and it didn't seem like it was worth my effort to kind of spend time on that. I also kind of like what she said, what Shonali said earlier about you know, she said she wouldn't ask for the negative feedback. Now, the thing about that is the it's nice to know from your personal brand what the good stuff is. That's where you can see there's where the positives are. That's the strong personal brand that's coming across. But I mean, I can see the point of knowing what's negative that's coming across. And yet I see her point that, you know, people aren't always honest. And I told you that I feel like people may not have been honest about the negative because they didn't want to be the ones who were identified as, you know, having provided negative. And she said, we're all human. We all make mistakes, do things that we are, you know, in the spur of the moment or something. And then when when it's a close friend, you wouldn't be their friend if they were so negative. So I liked a lot of what I learned from her today.
Good. That's good. Yeah, so it's all learning. Everybody learns. In fact, I'm learning from every one of you here. So that's very good. So the point here is when you need to care. As a quick summary, you need to care. You need to be consistent. You need to seek, feedback from people to know how do they perceive. You will know. You don't need to really seek. Sometimes it comes to you automatically because through somebody else and say, by the way, he's got an opinion. That's why you're not on this project, So you get it here like that. The other part is, as a manager, as a leader, you can ask your subordinates and the person, your reportees, and say, in one-on-ones, and is there anything that I can do for you? Is there any how is my working relationship with you? Is there, how do you want me to engage with you? It's like individual basis. It's also with your peers, your managers you can talk to, and also you can talk to other department folks and say, agree on an engagement model on what works. You're right, like this they say, right, as a philosophically, the five fingers are different, they are not the same, but they all have a function to play. One is complementing the other. So in projects that ultimately, I'm going back to my comfort zone there, you need to have these kind of people to help succeed in the project. So to me, you need to solicit feedback and look at, don't worry about who said, how they said it, rather than what has been said. Go into that, the root cause and see if it's really worth that's really true, and then you can change. The other aspect of it is focus on the strength. If don't be too defensive, that's what the industry experts say, don't be defensive. And no, that's not me, you didn't like this because I didn't help you, so you're talking about like this. No, listen. As again Shonali mentioned, listen. It's always an engagement. So that's what comes to my mind. And ultimately, one last thing I wanted to say here is, why do you care? Because it will help you when you're changing the jobs, when you are looking for you as a team collaborating. It's all collaboration. Now we are more working on remotely we are working. We need to collaborate. And if you feel that there is some miscommunication between, because somebody perceived, because you are perceived as rude, sometimes people say, even if you write your email, read it once or twice, don't just hit send. And sometimes if whatever you're thinking doesn't come exactly in words, too many words are too short and it doesn't come very well. So it's all learning at the end of the day to me. So you need to care for your career, for your growth, for your being a leader. And that's why we are doing this show. So I'm sure our audience would have felt it interesting and thought-provoking, food for thought. Right? Yeah. Any final comments, Prabhu, from your side?
Yes. When once you have you made a good summary of whatever we discussed so far. One parting comment from me would be, once you have established that thought leadership and what is your core skill and the core message or the core story you want to convey to the other person, there is once you have established that brand, there is always a set of people who need mentoring, guidance, and that knowing your audience who need who will be your followers, is always going to help you to create good leaders or good entrepreneurs, where if you are an investor, you could possibly invest in those businesses. If you are a person who is into mentoring and coaching, you are going to create more leaders, where possibly you will get further mentoring or coaching assignments, or who knows, as Sri you might rightly mention, if you need to make a career change, you could be part of that business, or you could be part of those organizations eventually. People they are in a comfort zone. They like to work with people whom they are familiar with and whom they can relate in their ideology, and that is what you are building in these relationship, and that's what you are conveying as a personal brand and creating that confidence with the other person.
Yeah.
So be
Yeah.
a thought leader and uh, always mentor and be a help to other people, so that it is helpful for them, and it could help you in the
Yeah.
near future also.
It will very well said, Prabhu. It's always to say it will help answer questions like why me, why not me, both of them. Why me and why not me as well. If you
Yeah.
pay close attention to and keep an open mind, ultimately. And with Yolande, your experience, what about the key learnings is you are bold enough to go and seek help and feedback. That's a very, very bold, and you're super confident, because one of the things is, okay, I need to improve. Okay, I understood personal branding. So what are the key takeaways from this conversation is, one has to really pay attention to personal branding in social networking, social media, or individual. Be yourself, be individual, and look around and get to know what the people perceive about you, so that you can just develop, establish. And if you cannot do it all by yourself, look for some help through mentors and coach. Then get to know, and also see, survey, like what Yolande mentioned, and get some feedback to see if it's working. Do it like a before and after. It's always help one's career at the end of the day to improve. Let it be managing a small task, managing a project, managing a multi-million dollar venture, or you are going to be owning a company, and you need to know what your a C-level executives are talking, what the board perceives, and do you have a really an alignment within the board. You have alignment with your VPs that they are reporting into you. So all those things. So ultimately, it is super important. We all agree. We will come back with a separate segment on the product branding and what really matters, because there's more to it about what do you do, how do you fix it. So we'll get another chance to do, and we'll also do another program on mentoring. What is mentoring and how we can do on that. So Yolande, thank you so much for your time today, and good luck with your HBAP, and to you as well as right, Shonali, and thank you so much. And Prabhu will very soon be part of HBAP. And to all those fans, HTIF fans and listeners and HBAPers and folks on our network, HTIF network, thank you very much for joining. As mentioned, any feedback, itsdiff@gmail.com, itsdiff@gmail.com is the email that you can send it to. And also the other interesting thing I want to leave is, check out our podcast. And this is a leadership series, as I mentioned. We try to do it because of the COVID and quarantine times, and people have not to travel, drive and things like that. They have some extra time, so why not we just spend some useful time to learn something. So we are trying our best to share what we are learning. That's all it is. It's a community service. So if you wanted to support our show, get in touch with us. If you have speakers and you have topic recommendations, we would love to hear from you. Send it at itsdiff@gmail.com, and this is the feedback you can see under the screen here. And you know how to get in touch with us. Subscribe to our YouTube, like our HTIF page. Thank you once again, and we'll see you some other time. Stay safe. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Sri and Prabhu, for having me on your show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Prabhu, very much.
Yeah, thank you, Sri.